so for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Katelyn Fulton with Century 21 Percy Fulton. Today we're going to be talking all about objection handling. And if you are tuned into YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's get started. I'm getting very advanced with my presentations now. So this is our video. Okay, so on today's agenda, we're going to talk about what an objection is. I'm going to talk about the sales process and the system that you guys will go through, why handling objections is important in our business, the process of handling objectives, and then common objections and scripts that you guys will go through. So what is an objection? So basically, it's an excuse or reason given by a potential client explaining why they will not or cannot complete a purchase or sale with you. So if a prospect says anything other than I'm ready to buy or sell with you, whatever they say is considered an objection. Now there is a sales process, and if you were on Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp, you would have seen me ask this question yesterday. But the sales process typically goes one, which is prospecting, doing all those activities that we've talked about for the last few weeks on how to find clients. So multiple different ways of finding the clients. Step two would be the presentation. So a listing or a buyer presentation. So once you've got a lead, they say, okay, I'm ready to meet with you. You would either go to their house to talk about selling their property, or you would talk about the process of buying a home with them. So a buyer consultation, listing presentation, these are common things that you guys will hear. And then the third step would be closing. So actually signing the contract, whether it be a listing agreement, a buyer rep agreement, an offer, signing the sale of a home, so closing the transaction as well. So while I have all of you guys in front of me, I'm also going to pop up a poll as well. But I want everyone to answer this question. So of these three steps, what do you guys think is the most important part of the sales process? Would it be prospecting, the presentation, or closing? So for my people here, everyone's voting. No one knows the right answer, but presentation. Okay, put your hand up if you think prospecting. Okay. Of these three parts of the sales process, what's the most important? So would it be prospecting? Okay. Would it be the presentation? Okay. And closing. All right. So I'm going to give our Zoom people a little chance there. We've got some people, lots of people on Facebook saying closing, prospecting. Someone says the follow-up. Yeah, there's no trick answer. I swear it's not something that I didn't say. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll here. We're going to share the results from you guys, and you'll see that most people think prospecting, I think, from here, and closing. Okay, we're going to stop sharing that. All right, so the answer is the presentation. This may shock a lot of people, and I'm very glad, because that means we're all going to learn something very important today, and why the presentation is the most important part of the sales process. So we're going to be talking all about that. And if you've heard me talk about listing presentations, you will know that I drill this into you guys to have a listing presentation, and you're going to find out why. So by having a strong listing presentation, buyer or seller, the easier it is for you guys to sign the contract. How many of you guys here, or even on my Instagram and Facebook world, how many of you guys do have a presentation that you actually participate in? So when you guys go to a listing presentation, it's not just the CMA, you guys are doing a full out presentation, right? When you work with a buyer, when you guys have a buyer consultation on the phone or Zoom, wherever you guys are doing it, how many of you guys go through a full buyer presentation before you go to the house? Perfect. I'm really glad we're all here today. And no, I am, because I'm really excited, because at least I'm hoping that you guys get to learn. I already know Irene is putting her hands up because she's been part of a certain coach that teaches this as well. And I'm going to be talking a lot about some of his stuff as well. So how do you present yourself the best? You go in with confidence, knowledge, your appearance is really nice, you build trust, and you're believing in what you say. So the better your presentation, the easier it is to prospect and close. So you must have and practice an epic, I'm going to call it an epic, listing and buyer presentation. And you must be able to build good rapport with your potential clients. And just by having a strong presentation alone is really going to eliminate 90% of the objections that you're going to get on a presentation. And we'll talk about that as well. So this is why we really do drill. And I know Claire talks about it consistently all the time on why you guys should really be focused and sitting down and doing a presentation so that when you get that, you're doing your prospecting, you're getting that client lead, and then you're sticking them in front of you to be interviewed, to be hired. And this is a very important part of the process and where you're going to gain that trust in that, like gain the trust from these people to hire you as well. So why is the skill of objection handling important? So think of your objections as opportunities. If you cannot handle an objection, it's going to be very difficult for you to close or even win over clients with their trust, because they're not going to believe you. They don't trust you. You come out you're not confident in your own answers. So if you can't even handle those objections that are coming at you properly, it's going to be very hard to win over trust from these people. So in a slow market, especially like what we're experiencing today, or a more difficult market, it's going to really expose the difference between the agents who can close and those who cannot. So we're in a very important market right now where we're in a tough situation where we're going to be dealing with the most objections that you ever will. So you really need to really get into this presentation, the objection handling, and really start to sharpen your skills a little bit, because the last few years has been very easy. It's been everyone wants to buy, everyone wants to sell. Now you're going to be hearing all those objections, like the interest rates are going up, prices are going down. You're going to be hearing this a lot. And these won't matter if you have some confidence in your abilities to get past those objections. So the more closings that you guys can get through, the more income. So you want to own your value. So you're going to inspire trust. So it's clear that you care about the client and not just about your commission, otherwise commission breath. And I find in a market like this where we're desperate to get sales, your commission breath is really going to shine and they will feel it. It's going to demonstrate competence. So you have the skills and the resources to get the job done. And it's going to build confidence. So you're basically commanding of the issues, gives confidence to the client that they need in order to want to work with you. So the more confidence you're showing in the market, the more likely they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to trust this person. I'm ready to buy and sell because they have confidence in it as well. So there is a sales block, and probably especially in this type of market, especially for new agents, you're going to have a little bit of a sales block. So most agents, you don't even know that there is an objection to be handled, and you don't even know how to discover the objection. So if you hear no objections, and this is probably, let me know if you've ever experienced this, but if you don't hear any objections, and then you found out that that client that you were working with or talking to, they bought or sold without you, this should be a major red flag, because there was an objection that you didn't even know was sitting in front of you because you didn't really put in the effort to find it. So if you're not hearing the objections, they decided not to hire you, you really need to look into like what types of questions are you asking these people, what conversations are you having, and you really need to practice this. So have any of you guys experienced that yet, where you had someone, you were showing them houses, maybe you went on a listing presentation, you thought it went really well, and then they listed with somebody else? Probably all of us. Buyers, sellers. I know we've been to listing presentations and you don't get hired on all of them, and you thought you killed it. Like you're like, I did so well. They loved everything I said, but they didn't sign the contract. So there was an objection that could have been handled on the spot that you didn't care to actually ask about because you probably didn't want to hear the answer either, or you didn't know how to handle that objection that they had. So the process of dealing with objections is very important. It's never argue with the person or get defensive, and always smile and nod your head with them, agree with them. So your goal is not to fight the potential client, it's to help them. So in today's market, you're probably going to be hearing like, oh, well, I decided to go with this agent because they were cheaper. And then you're going to fight them on like why they should go with you and all of that, or like the interest rates. And then you start to fight them on why the interest rates are wrong. And people get very defensive in this market because you don't believe in what they're saying, but they don't trust you either, because now you're just getting angry and defensive. So you have to change your little approach a lot and start to agree with them and come up with a different approach of your body language and all of that stuff as well. We're going to talk about this stuff too. So listen to the objections before you actually handle it. So you want to make eye contact with them. You want to have an open body position and be empathetic with what they're going to talk about. So that's the way to handle it. It's not to fight them back. And like, you're not here to have a power struggle over why you're right, why they're wrong kind of thing. We want to figure out what the real reason is why they're not choosing to move forward with the process. So don't cut them off or start talking right away. Examples of an objection handling language would be, this makes sense. I see your point. I understand, and I can appreciate that. So these are very common things that you'll say when they say why they're not moving forward. Just saying, yeah, I get it. I totally understand. Not, no, this is how it should be. So you have to understand where they're coming from. Even if you don't understand where they're coming from, you need to show the proper language to show them that you understand and that you know why they're saying this. But you need to clarify what that objection is. So you must be able to isolate the objection and then repeat it to the client to confirm it was actually the objection. So sometimes they may just say, oh, I'm not ready yet. And we're going to talk about that. I don't have the money. The interest rates are going up. So you need to find out, like, what's the real underlying objection that they're talking about? And it may not be the interest rates. It could be something completely different. It could be they don't actually trust you, but they're going to blame the interest rates. Or it could be your commission was too high and someone else offered it lower. So it could actually be something completely different than what they're telling you. Oh, I'm not ready yet. I want to talk to my wife. That means I don't want to hire you. That's the real underlying issue. Isn't that they need to talk to their wife? It's they don't want to work with you. It's kind of like dating, actually. Have you guys ever watched that movie, He's Just Not That Into You? Maybe some girls here. Or like there's a book called He's Just Not That Into You. And you come up with every excuse of why they're not dating you. But the real issue is they just aren't into you. It's not because they have no money. It's not because the interest rates are going up. They're just not interested in you or working with you. It's not the timing of the market or anything like that. It's you. I know it's a hard thing to take. But so we want to explore their actual reasoning. So sometimes that first objective is not the actual objection. So never, like Claire's taught us, is never answer that first question or answer why, because it's not usually that reason. So you want to ask more questions and take this time to learn more about the client and build that trust with them. Responding to the objection. So do you have any personal stories or example past clients or situations that you could relate back to it? If you're a brand new agent, you may not have a lot of your own personal stories, but maybe you've talked to a lot of the experienced agents and heard some of their own stories of things that they've gone through, and then taking like real live experiences. I'm trying to think of examples like pricing. We'll talk about that too. Like if someone wants to price a property too high, you could talk about an experience when you did that with another client and how that situation turned out. So by relaying back your experience is really going to help respond to objections so that they can relate to it a little bit more and know that you've been through it as well. And you need to really learn your strategies and keep it simple. So check back with the client. So when you're at a presentation with them, say things like, does what I say make sense to you? Or have I answered your concern? So if they haven't basically signed a contract on the spot, what have I not answered yet? Why are you not signing today? Is there something that I missed that that is lingering in your head that we could talk about right now? So you want to ask a lot more questions to figure out why they're not comfortable moving forward with you on the spot. And if they answer affirmatively, you can move on. So don't stick to an objection and like stay on it. You want to like, as soon as you've answered their question, you've answered their concern, move on to the next topic. You don't want to still keep lingering on it. If they still seem hesitant on not moving forward with you, or they act uncertain, you may, again, not have fully resolved their concerns. So we want to dive a little bit deeper into what those concerns are going to be. and go back to understanding what their objective is. So why are they buying and selling? Redirecting the conversation. So any other questions? So I'm sure if you're at a presentation, you're saying, do you have questions? Do you have questions? And then asking them questions. Again, if not, if they don't have any questions, just move along. But don't linger in any negative conversations and move more on to the positive things. So here's there's 5 different types of objections. Once you get some more experience out there, if you guys are going on lots of presentations, you're talking to more clients, you're going to realize there's only like maybe 10 objections that you're really going to be handling. There's not a lot. We've got scripts and scripts for tons of different objections, but at the end of the day, you're going to hear very similar ones, and I'm going to show them to you. And you'll probably agree that there's not many more objections to handle. So if you can even come up with 10 objections as you go on into your business, start to write down these objections in your notes section on your phone. Be like, okay, that's a common objection. And then you're going to start to come up with your own scripts and everything for them as well. But the 5 most common types of objections that you're going to hear is no money, no need, no hurry, no interest, and no trust. Does anyone think of any other ones that I'm missing? Or do you guys agree with these? Pretty much like, oh, I don't have any money right now. I'm not approved right now. Or the prices are too high right now. They don't have the money for it. No need, like there was no need. They're just curious. There's no hurry. Maybe usually the hurry, you want some motivation with them. Maybe they got divorced, they're having a baby. There's a reason why they're moving. So if they don't have that motivation, they're not moving, and you'll never, ever, ever be able to give them motivation. And it's something I hear a lot of new agents say, especially when you have like a bunch of leads. Your common thing is, oh, I'm trying to convince them to sell. I'm trying to motivate them to tell them what the market's doing. I'm like, if they don't have the motivation themselves, or no need, no hurry, they're not going to sell. So that's just an objection that they're going to come up. They may not have no interest. You may be like going down to your friends, be like, oh, this is the best time to buy. The prices are low. They may not have 0 interest right now in buying a house. And you're not going to be able to give them that interest just by telling them what's happening in the market. And then, of course, what we've talked about is the no trust. So a huge one is they just don't trust you. So if they went and bought with somebody else, that's a huge flag that they didn't trust you, and that you may need to come up with something else when you're talking to these people. So let's talk about the top objections that you may see when you're going on a listing presentation. So these are like quotations, I guess, but even though we like you, you're the first agent we've talked to, and we want to interview other agents. How many of you guys have heard that objection at a listing? Probably a lot, right? There's other people that they're going to be interviewing. We're not ready to list yet because we'd like to find a new home first. So they want to buy first before they sell. Probably hearing that a lot more lately. And again, I'm going to go over the scripts for these two, and I want to get you to comfortable with the types of objections. We're interviewing other salespeople, and we'd like to think over the decision of listing with you. Let's list high and we can come down later. So let's list at my price, and like, let's just see what happens. I'm sure a lot of listing agents have heard that. Well, let's just see what happens. Let's just try it. What's the harm in listing high? If I list my home with you and buy my next home from you, will you cut your commission? It's probably a very common one. Commission's a huge one. Another agent said they could get us more money. Probably, yeah. We've been on listing presentations. I know a good chunk of the time you lose because someone told them they could get higher price, or someone said they could do it cheaper. Those are very common reasons why you won't get chosen. Will you cut your commission? Other agents will. The market is bad. We want to wait for it to get better. That's going to be a very common one that you guys hear. This market. You haven't sold any houses in our area. I haven't seen your name on any for sale signs, but I see this person all over. We're not ready. We want to fix the house up first. We got some things to do. Stanek, what do you usually say when someone asks you to cut your commission? Irene, what do you say? Perfect. because your presentation is so strong. Yeah, and it's a good statement. Yeah, and that's what we talked about at the beginning. So if you guys go through these, when we talk about your listing presentations, if you guys have done the full presentation, you've talked about why they should hire you, why should you hire my team, what's happening in the real estate market, what your house is priced at and why, and you're showing them strong comparables. You're talking about everything. If you've gone through all of those questions in your presentation, you should not see any of these questions. But if you're just walking in with a CMA, you just skipped out on a whole bunch of questions. Like, why are they hiring you? Who are you? What sales have you done in the area? What's your marketing plan? Some people don't even talk about their commission in the presentation because they've done a good job. If you're talking about why it's scary to list a house high in a market that's going down, what that's going to happen, they're not going to ask you that later on and say, oh yeah, we should list it high because you did such a good job at explaining why they should not list high. So that's why I really want you guys to get into the habit of having a strong presentation, because if you do, you will not face these questions at the end. So if you find that you're going into presentation and they're drilling you, you just went over the CMA and at the end, these are the questions they're drilling you with, high chance you did a bad job at explaining all of this. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's exactly why we teach you those listing presentations and why to have all these questions already answered for them. So if you already know that like these 9 things are going to probably come up on a listing presentation, if you can figure out a way in your presentation to have all these questions answered already just by you telling them up front, they're not going to give you these objections in that presentation because you've already handled them by telling them about it before they even had the chance to ask you. Hopefully that's like lighting up some light bulbs for some of my experienced people right now. I know that's why Irene's saying no one asks me, because she probably talks about these things in that presentation as well. And when you guys are going to be competing in this market, we need some strong presentations. So again, top producer tips. You should be going through all of these topics in your presentations. Like I said, why should they hire you? What sales do you have? What's your history? If you don't have any history, you're a brand new agent. What's the brokerage sold in the area? We are your team. If you have not sold a house in that area, before your presentation, go on MLS, look up what the brokerage has sold in that area and be like, we sold these houses, and have addresses so that you don't get that objection like, oh, you've never sold a house here. Yes, we have. We've sold these houses. What is your brokerage doing for you? What does the admin team do? Who's your team of experts? Do you guys have a plumber, electrician? Remember, we just talked about the core 100 people. Do you have a team of experts? They may say, oh, this guy offered me a full moving package. And so if you went through that in your presentation, they're not going to come up with that objection for you and start comparing you to somebody else. What's your marketing strategy? Someone may say, oh, Bob came yesterday and said he's going to do social media marketing, and you didn't even talk about your marketing at all to them. So that's an objection right there that you could have handled upfront by talking about what your marketing strategy is. What's happening in the market? So typically what we get on our presentation is we talk about what's happening in the GTA as a whole, what's happening in that neighborhood, and what's happening in the specific type of houses in their neighborhood. Are listings up, listings down? That's why we're telling you guys to talk about the market and what's going on, because then they don't have the objection to talk about, well, the market sucks. Well, yeah, we just talked about the market. We talked about it sucking. So you've already handled it. CMA pricing. This is probably the only thing most agents go in with is the CMA. And if you did a good job at explaining the actual price and comparing it to other properties, it's going to be hard for them to be like, oh, well, Bob said that it's actually worth this. Well, which property did Bob show you that showed you that it was worth that? So if you're doing a good job at explaining the comparables, you won't get that objection. And what's your pricing strategy? So if they're like, oh, I want to list high and see what happens, you're like, no, I just told you that if you list too high, over time, it's going to sit on the market longer, and the longer the house sits on the market, the lower the price is going to go. So why would you want to do that? You probably don't. So make sure, at minimum, if you guys can pull anything from today, is make sure you have all of this in your presentation. It could be on a slideshow, it could be whatever format, but make sure you're answering all of these questions in your listing presentation. And if it's your best friend, don't be scared to like have a full PowerPoint presentation with them. I know it's awkward. It's not normally how you talk to your friends and family, but this is why you have to. So at the end of the presentation, ask if you missed anything. So say, what did I miss? You must have a way of finding out the objection that they have. Look them in the eye, smile, and ask, are you ready to list your home with me? If they're not ready to list your home with me, why not? What did I not answer? What concerns do you have? So like ask them. If they're not ready to sign that listing, why not? And what can I do right now to answer that question that you have that's concerning to you? Okay, let's talk about open houses. Does anyone have questions on the listing before I move on, actually? Any on here? Okay. So here's some common ones that you guys may see at an open house. So we're going to wait. We aren't ready yet. I want to wait to buy until we have a bigger down payment. We're going to wait for the market to keep going down. I'm sure, who's done open houses recently? Have you guys heard these objections pretty much? These are pretty common in any market. So these are mostly what you're going to hear from these people coming in. Some of the tips if you're going to be doing open houses is ask these people as many questions as possible instead of defending yourself in the market. So it could be like, well, how much do you have? How much down payment do you have? We'll talk about waiting for the market to go down. I've got some objections for that for you guys. We want to wait till we have a bigger down payment. So that's the no money objection. So at open houses, you're typically dealing with more strangers and whatnot, people early in their shopping phases, but just ask more questions to really surface what that real objection is and how can you answer it for them to help them. Okay, working with buyers. So when you get on a buyer consultation, they may say, you know what, we're just going to think about it. Not ready. We're going to think about it. We're going to wait. We're not ready right now. We don't want to compete with other buyers. Maybe there's a presentation happening. We don't want to wait, or we don't want to compete. The market's going to keep dropping, so prices are going to go lower. So what's the real objection is probably like there's no motivation. They have no interest. Maybe they don't trust you, because if they were going to compete with other buyers, they would trust you because you know how to do an offer situation and you've convinced them like, don't worry about other offers. I'll walk you through it. So we got to make sure that we're handling the real objections of why they're coming up with these. This isn't our dream house. We don't get the feeling in this house. Interest rates are too high. That's gonna be our common one. We want to wait for the bubble. Our friend relative is also a real estate agent and our credit isn't good enough. So these are common. So again, if you guys can write these down, these are pretty much the only objections you're going to handle. And I know it freaks a lot of people out when they're like, oh, there's just so many objections to handle. I'm like, you're mostly going to hear these same things over and over and over. So if you guys could start to get the scripts in your head, start practicing them a little bit better, these objections are going to be very easy to handle. I know we've been doing it for what, 7 years? We've seen these now and you get more confident as it goes. Billy, do you find you're more confident now when you handle objections a little bit? Got more experience that you can relate it back to?
You mean to share a situation?
Yeah.
I
think-
well, there are when you get an objection, sometimes the objection is a condition.
Yeah.
So if it's a condition, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
But mainly my experience, the objection is a question.
Exactly.
So the common one that I'm hearing these days is that the interest rates is going up and we think the market is going to go down more.
Yep.
So like I don't have a crystal ball. Like I guess I don't have a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important for you to buy?
Exactly.
So you have to go to their motivation.
Yep.
What's important about buying?
Exactly. See if they've actually have an interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a good objection for the interest rate one.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that one. So some top producer tips for dealing with the buyers is figure out what's going to close the buyer. So typically it's why they're not buying would be price, the floor plan or the layout of the house isn't correct, or the location isn't correct. So most buyers want it all. They're like, well, I want this floor plan, I want this location, but I can't afford it. Like, so they want all of it, but it's very rare that you're going to get it all. So we do have to talk about that objection with them instead of saying, okay, no problem. You have to be very upfront with buyers and tell them, well, your price does not afford that. So 2 of 3 is great if you can get 2 of those 3 things for the buyer. But if the location is the number 1 for them, sometimes you're only going to get that location, and you might get a crappy house, but you get a great location. So it's going to be hard to get all of them. So if you can let the buyers know and be realistic, I think a lot of your buyers really do. They need to know. The same with your sellers. They need someone that's going to be upfront with them and tell them the real truth. And it may hurt and it may scare you because you don't want to scare that person away. But it's in experience in any type of market, these are typically your 3 objections when it comes to a particular house. So the experienced agent. So the experienced agent will know as many market objections as possible, and they're ready for them. They'll know objection handling is just part of the industry, and they don't complain about it. So I hear a lot of agents coming in, especially in this market, complaining about, oh, my client said this, my client says the rates are bad, the client said the market's bad. An experienced agent just knows that in any hot market, they're going to say the same objections as well. So objections are just part of every single market. In the hot market, we were begging for this market. We were like, oh, I just want prices to go down. I want things to slow down. And now that things have slowed down, now we're like, oh, I want things to go back up. So we'll never win. You're just always going to have objections, and it's just part of our industry. And so the more comfortable you guys get with handling these objections in any market, the better it is. And I'll tell you, all those objections I just talked about, you're going to see that in every single market. The prices are always going to be off. The interest rates are always going to be bad. Like, something's always going to be off. The price is too high. The prices are going to go low. Like, you're always going to face those 5 objections. An experienced agent is actively going to listen and anticipate that there's going to be objections at them. So they don't take it personal. They just know it's going to happen.
Can I share something?
Yes.
I don't recall a listing that I took without having questions.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones I didn't take, no questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
So the ones that you didn't get hired for had no questions for
no,
you.
the one that I listed, they had questions.
Yes, of course.
The one that they didn't ask me any questions,
Yeah.
they didn't hire
They
me.
didn't hire you.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you walked in and they didn't ask you any questions, you felt so good about it because they didn't object to anything.
Yeah.
They probably had objections and you just didn't ask for them. So they had it, but they didn't hire you. And you thought it went so well because they didn't fight you. But truth is, they were fighting you inside and you didn't get it out of them to be able to handle it.
When they ask me questions, they get excited. Like,
Yes.
getting closer to getting the contract signed.
And I was going to talk about that too. Like, when you get it, sometimes when you get objections, it's because they want to find the weakness in you.
Yeah.
And if you're confident and you're answering objection after objection after objection, they're like, oh, okay, well, they know what they're talking about. So sometimes it's nice when they give you that opportunity to kind of fight for what you know and your knowledge. But it is good to have objections. You want to have them.
Yeah.
I could agree. I don't think we've ever dealt with a client that didn't ask a question, and not because like they wanted to be mean or anything. They just they're testing you, especially in this market. So the more conviction, like we just said, the more conviction you have, the less likely you're going to get objections like this. So if you're confident, you know all the answers to all of their objections because you practiced them, did a good presentation with, couldn't ask you too much, or they did have questions, but the more conviction you have, the better. Objection is purely a function of a weak presentation. So again, if they do have too many objections, it's because you didn't answer those questions up front. If you sound hesitant, your prospect, like we were just saying, your prospect's going to begin looking for ways to exploit your weakness. I'm sure we've been into listing presentations with that husband of the group, and all he wants to do is, like, before you even do your presentation, he's got objections before you're like, I haven't even started talking yet. Like, let me get to it. So they want to exploit your weakness. That's just what they want. They don't like real estate agents. They don't trust us already, and they want to exploit that. It's just part of the ego as well. But if you're strong in answering those objections, then it makes it harder for them to not trust you. So I would interpret this objection as your prospect telling you, I don't think you have any value, so you better prove it to me. Pretty good. So most agents focus too much on getting the clients, and then they don't know what to do when they actually get the client. So how many of us can agree with that? I'm sure we've had a lot of, especially our new agents, probably. You finally got the client and you're like, okay, now what do I do? And that's very normal. It's going to be very common. It's going to be part of the process. I keep looking over here because I've got my 3 newest people. So we need to focus on the prospecting as well as your presentation so that you know exactly what the conversation is going to be like. And so don't just focus too much on getting the client, but focus on selling them as well. You need to focus on your presentation skills just as much as you focus on your prospecting. These presentations alone, like even Irene was saying, is going to eliminate 90% of those objections. So as long as you're answering them in the presentation, you should be able to eliminate a lot of that. More presentations you do, the better you'll get. So this is just going to take time. So I think I've got some questions. Let's see. Does anyone want to do any of these? Anyone want to say it in front of the class? My class. Steve, would you like to handle an objection? You can just read this. I have the full script for you. Okay, so Steve, if I list my home with you and buy my next home from you, will you cut your commission?
You know, I can appreciate that, and I want to be upfront with you and say, no, I will not cut my commissions. And for one very simple reason. As a professional, my time has a certain value, and I only work with people like you that realize the value of my service. And before you say anything, think about this. If an agent is willing to cut his or her commission, just like that, how well do you think they'll hold up when it comes to negotiating the best possible price for your home? I want to demonstrate up front how tough I am going to be for you. Therefore, cutting my commission is not an option. Does that make sense?
No. Yes. But you can see how he used so this is the Mike Ferry scripts. So he say like, does that make sense? You want them to agree with you. And I think I highlighted this in green because I think this is a very strong one too. Like if someone says, can you cut my commission? The Mike Ferries would just say no, laugh and say next question. But if you want to explain yourself, even if I know these are long scripts, but I think it's really good if you guys can get used to saying some scripts. I've got the script book from Mike Ferry too. Very old school stuff, but he's got some good stuff. But I like the part in green where it's if an agent's going to cut their commission like that easily, how well do you think it's going to uphold when it comes to negotiating your home? Like that's a very upfront thing. So if they're talking about other commissions competing with the other agents, just say, well, if he can't even sell his own worth, how do you think he's going to upstand this $1 million property that you've given him? Irene's got one.
I just want to try this one.
Okay.
So you ask it again.
Come on up. Here, come get on the mic
Oh, no, I have
so that my viewers can listen. So Irene's been trained by the Mike Ferry, and when it comes to scripts too, he trains a lot in downwards trends and like the way to say things. So I'll ask Irene. So if I list my home with you and buy my next home from you, will you cut your commission?
I can appreciate that. And I want to be upfront with you and say, no, I will not cut my commission. And for one very simple reason. As a professional, my time has a certain value, and I only work with people like you that realize the value of my service. And before you say anything, think about this. If an agent is willing to cut his or her commission just like that, how well do you think they will hold up when it comes to negotiating the best possible price for your home? I want to demonstrate upfront how tough I'm going to be for you. Therefore, cutting my commission is not an option. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
I love it. Yes, Sandeep.
But the conversation doesn't end here. You confirm them, you say no, and you think the conversation ends. The next question is, there are other agents. I have so many, typical.
Here. You're next. Here. Will you cut your commissions? Other agents will. Well, where'd that sound come from? There. Okay, Sandeep, this one's for you. Other agents will cut their commissions, will you? Here, I'll say, I'll be the brackets.
Yeah, come, I didn't get it. No, come again, I absolutely mean it.
You're reading off the screen. Good. Now I've got scripts. So will you cut your commission? Other agents will.
Should I read it?
Yep.
You know, you are right. There are lots of desperate agents out there and I am a little concerned. Can I tell you why?
Yes.
Do you own anything more valuable than this home?
No.
Could you say that it is your most valuable possession?
Yes.
If an agent is so desperate that they are willing to broadcast the fact that they don't think they have any value as a realtor, then I'm confused. Is that the type of person you want sitting across from the negotiating table, trying to negotiate you a better price?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because these, I think, I don't know. I mean, there are very experienced people, but this commission part, I think out of 1 hour discussion, 50% is.
Yeah.
At least I had that.
Everyone's going to experience it. And that's why it's going to be really good.
Sorry.
Now you know what to say. Exactly. So I want to give you guys the scripts for it because this a common objection that every single person in this room is going to get, no matter your experience, your background, the color of your skin, any of that, we will all experience this as well. And so use these scripts. These are the Mike Ferry scripts. They're very detailed. I would say, I want to say like personalize them a little bit, but I also want to say the more you practice these, the better, because some people do use these scripts and they work. So that's why they're given. And there's different coaches out there as well. Claire, you've probably got some insight onto this topic as well on commissions. You hear it all the time, but this is the Mike Ferry stuff. It's strong. I do like that second line. Or sorry, the second last one, where it's if an agent's so desperate that they're willing to broadcast the fact that they don't think they have any value as a realtor, then I'm confused. So is that the type of person you want sitting across from the negotiation table, trying to negotiate a better price for you? So you're trying to say if they can't even negotiate their own commission, how are they going to negotiate your asset? So you're just putting these into their minds because they probably haven't heard this script. We've all heard it, but your sellers haven't heard this script before.
I mean, once or twice, not many times. Something that really helped me, I asked them 2 questions. I said, my experience is there are 2 major investments you do in life. One is your marriage, and second is home. If you want to save it, better to use the professional.
There you go. Claire, I feel like you've had a good one before, and it might be that one if I can't negotiate it. The other one's honestly just no. Mike Ferry will literally just say no, and then he'll like smile and sit in silence. And I remember doing this as a new agent as well, because I just went to the Mike Ferry event. And I literally just said no. And I sat there like sweating, like silence, like don't say anything when you say no, just say no. And then everyone's awkward. It could be like the longest minute of your life. And then you just like move on, like pretend it didn't happen. But they are going to ask you, just anticipate this is going to be your number 1 objection. Figure out what script works for you and like just know it's going to happen and be ready for it and be able to answer it. Because I know you already know what's going to happen, right? Everybody gets it. Nelson, do you have any? I know you've got some slaps for these guys too.
I think at the end of the day, you got to be prepared when you go to a presentation. You got to do a presentation, but they're not going to challenge you on
Marketing.
Or what you said about yourself, what you said about the team, what you said about the marketing plan, and they can't fight you on the statistics. So you got to really be strong on the 2 objections, which is going to be handling commission and the price. This is what they're going to fight you on. Yeah. And if you learn those 2, I think you're going to be able to overcome a lot of of that resistance, because that's really what it boils down to is
It's
price
true.
and commission.
Yeah.
And you really got to be able to answer that, not like a script, but in your own words, and make it come out of your mouth like, hey, you know what, do you have anything more valuable than your home, right? So you got to be prepared to start with those for sure, because they're going to fight you on price and they're going to fight you on commission. They're not going to challenge you on what you're going to do for them or what the market's saying in terms of statistics, because there's a fact. So that's what you really got to do.
I would agree. Like of all the listings we've ever lost, it's always someone told them a higher price or someone did it cheaper. Like those are literally the most common reasons. Like maybe they didn't like us, our personality, but it's typically those 2. Oh, come on.
in my head, I'm thinking of a simpler way of saying this in terms of like saying, if there's someone who doesn't even recognize their own self-worth, how will they recognize the worth of your own house?
Exactly, and say it just like that. Like, just be very direct with it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very, and just keep repeating it to you. Say it to yourself on the way to listing presentation, expecting them to say it. They're going to. Irene, what were you gonna say?
Well, I totally agree with what Nelson, like, when I done this presentation, all the information they give. Sometimes, other people they ask me, which company are you work for? I mean, they don't ask me, anything about how you're doing market, because in this presentation, everything's there.
Mhm.
And they won't challenge me about like, you're not selling home here, what's that. One time when I ask, we're selling the home in this area, I would say, well, you know what, I'm doing house, selling and buying all over.
Yeah.
Area in the neighborhood. Because of that, I have more knowledge. So when the offer comes, I can tell them, this price is not for this house, you should go somewhere else.
Mm.
Like you are more knowledgeable, you're not just know this street, this house, but you're doing the business everywhere, so don't be intimidated by people saying, okay, you're not selling home in my neighborhood, because basically when we negotiate the contract and the offer comes, we deal with the buying agent, sometimes we have to educate the buyer agent. The price individual, I say, okay, I'm sorry, well, I can appreciate that, but the price, if you're looking at this kind of home, maybe you should go to somewhere else over there. They may have something that need your need, but not definitely not in this neighborhood, not for my
Mhm.
business.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we do need to educate the buyer agent. Sometimes have to help the buyer agent.
Yeah.
Over the offer.
Anyone else? Yep. Sandeep?
One more thing, I think last time I was talking to Katelyn sometime about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Something what she told me that really helped me a couple of times. I said, as a family and friend, I might give you whatever, 0.2%, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that it's like a roadside negotiation. You go to buy a t-shirt, he says $20 and he will gives you at 18, you still feel you earn something.
Mhm.
I think that particular thing, family and friends, if at all somebody is giving,
Yeah.
really helps. They feel that you are.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's kind of up to you guys. My job is to try to get you guys that full 2.5%. And that's what I want for you guys. You guys can do whatever this is everyone's business. Everyone gets to do their own discounting. But if I can help you guys make more money by getting a full 2.5, I'm going to try that. But I do understand that, yes, there's going to be circumstances where, yes, you're dealing with family and friends. And then in that case, I would almost have different packages to offer them. So not just say, okay, yeah, 1%. I would say, here's my packages and go from there. But I want you to challenge you to try the 2.5 because you're an experienced agent, Sandeep. You are like, you're a good agent and people should pay for that. Right? What's another one we've got? We still need to,
Just stick that for a second, because
Okay, go.
For commissions are important, right? That's,
number one,
how do I say?
Here,
it?
come up
How do-
here
how
so
do I
our
say in 2
people
minutes
can-
What I know in 40 years.
come close because our internet people want to hear you.
Okay, here's what I do know. How do I put this to be polite? Okay, how many people here use a full listing presentation? 2. Your competition's the same. They're not using full listing presentations. They're just bringing out the CMAs. You have to know the difference between the CMA and a listing presentation. Everybody know the difference?
Less objections.
No, the physical paper. Everybody know the physical difference between a listing presentation and a CMA. They're 2 completely different things. You understand that, right? And the CMA is just talking about pricing and whatever else, and the presentation is who you are, what you do, and what you're gonna do for them, right? So you can come up with all kinds of things. You have to practice, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
this
yes,
you'll
I
never know.
can cut my commission, but which of these services you want me to remove?
Exactly.
Right? You want me to remove the spotlight? No, I wouldn't do that. That's important. You want me to remove the state? No, don't touch the state. You want to do that. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like you get in the conversation with them, right? But you have to practice these and you just can't sort of make that up, right? But I know your competition is not using listing presentations. That's why I'm saying that. You are. So you could explain the whole thing and then the guy understands. The other thing you want to do, little perks, little things you ought to think about. When you drive up to the guy's house, what kind of car are they driving? Are they driving Mercedes or BMWs or
Hyundai?
what's the fancy car?
Tesla?
So somewhere in the conversation, you may have, say, you're obviously a person of taste, you obviously recognize quality, you also paid for premium quality in that, and this is what we're offering here as well. Like, I get this all the time, people come to me and they say, it could be a Greek guy, it could be a Muslim guy, whatever it might be, and they say, you don't know my people, right? And I say, wait a minute, if I go to your mosque, I'm gonna see Cadillacs, I'm gonna see Mercedes, I'm gonna see Teslas in that parking lot. Don't tell me that people are cheap. But they will pay for quality, so you have to show that what the quality is. All right, our top producers in the corners here, they never cut commissions. But they're also so powerful that if they lose that listing, they don't care because they got another one coming around. So they're dealing with strength, right? So just be confident in yourself that you yourself deserve. I guess that's probably number one too, right? Do you guys deserve 2.5% commission?
Yeah.
You do? You sure? All right. So-and-so said he'd do it for 1%. Oh, I hear guys that do that all the time. Does that have to be answered? That's an objection that doesn't need to be answered.
Claire, you mentioned something very important. The other agent said he got his commission, but he never went through all the things he's gonna do.
That's right.
But
That's right.
we said you can ask, okay, did the agent show exactly step by step what he's gonna do to get your home sold?
Okay, so I used to sell before real estate. I used to sell industrial equipment to engineers. There's a job for you. All your clients are engineers.
Oh, gosh.
All right, and here's my product, and here's this guy's product, and his product is $100. My product's $200. What do you think I did to explain the difference between the two things? Mine has this brass, mine has that thickness, mine has this weight, mine has that weld, mine has this all the different things that mine has that this guy doesn't. So that's the only way you can do it, right? So you can get down to that. And I was gonna say something else too. What else?
You used to have a good one about hamburgers.
That's
Or was that Nelson's? Nelson had a good one about hamburgers, about McDonald's and like Burger Priest.
I think that was Buffini.
Is it Buffini?
Buffini.
Bruce told me that one.
Yeah.
Who did?
Bruce Kelly.
Yeah, I think it was Buffini, but
It's like if you're gonna take your wife on a date, are you gonna go to McDonald's or are you gonna go to Burger Priest?
yeah, so you're going to a first date. You want
I am Burger Priest.
Yeah, you're going on a first date. You want to have an impression there. You just want to have a casual lunch, get used to each other. You're gonna take them to McDonald's, you can take them to Burger Priest.
Burger Priest.
Anyway, so but you have to show that you're different from everybody else. That's what she's.
Burger Priest is a very expensive burger. And I cost more money, but you're gonna go there.
Just so you know, your listing presentation. Let's think about that on the way in here. Listing presentation to get it prepared shouldn't take more than a day. You should have the listen. If you don't have one, you should have it finished by tomorrow.
We already have your
It's not-
listing
it's not- it's not-
presentation, actually.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
The big deal is practicing it, doing it.
Mhm. And yeah, we've got tons of templates that are already done for you guys. All you have to do is add like your face to it. Everything else is pretty much done. Cool. I have a few other ones. Do you guys want some more?
There's other things too, okay? Like, I don't know, you can't 40 years, you can't do it in 2 minutes here, but
I know.
somebody's gonna say, what's your commission, right? And this comes with sales things, okay, so you talked about everything else, what's your commission? My commission is 5%. Or you can even start off saying, depends on personalities. If we can agree to a commission, you're prepared to move forward tonight. Right? Is that sort of a closing? That's the closing thing, and then you tell them it's 5%. And this is reasons why, but at least you get him to sign right there. And if he doesn't want to sign, then those are an objection that you didn't answer. You have to maybe readdress it. The other thing is what Mike Ferry talks about is the pre-listing
Yes.
interview. And on the phone, he says to the client, okay, so just confirm an appointment at 8 o'clock tonight. Is that okay? Yeah. Your husband's gonna be there as well? Yes, he is. Okay, and now if you like what I have to say and everything goes the way you expected, are you guys prepared to make a decision tonight? What's the answer gonna be? It's gonna say, yes, we are, or no, I have to talk to my uncle. You're gonna get some kind of objection, but if they say, yes, we are, and then you're at the table and then it's okay, thanks very much, we want to think about it. Well, on the phone, you said that if you like everything you had to say, you were prepared to make a decision time. So obviously I didn't answer all your questions. What other questions would you have? I'm getting nods. This is Mike Ferry 101, right?
Yeah. And also the important one is you plan to interview other agents. Because if you know that other agents going to be interviewing, then ideally you want to be the last agent. Ideally.
So we're getting really deep into this stuff now, and this is, I don't want to get too. deep
Okay, it's
into it.
advanced.
But the answer is that the list of presentation is the core of everything.
I think when you have a presentation, it's power, right? You know what you have to say, you're not going in there, sort of wobbling, and you can go in there and like Katelyn said, we wanted to have you guys go in there with the ability, believing that you have a right to ask for 5%. Being 2.5 for you. If you don't have a presentation, you're already going in knowing that you gotta, you've got to
Defend
make
it.
adjustments, right? Because why? Because you don't have a proper presentation, but a presentation is power. And as trainers and managers, we wouldn't be much trainers and managers by saying, hey, you know what, you want listings? Go there and take it at a quarter point. That wouldn't be very good. But for us, we're giving you these tools, we're emphasizing how important they are because we want you to be confident and ask for 2.5 for yourself. At the table, like Katelyn said, you can do whatever you want, but you need to know that you have the ability and the knowledge to ask for 2.5. And then what happens from there happens, right? But you want to make sure that you go in feeling that you have a right to ask for that.
Mhm. And we already know people are paying that. There are people out there
People are.
paying it.
And we're paying even more.
I've heard 7%.
Fraser, oops, did I say that name? You'll charge 6 and 7, and people will pay it, so.
Yeah.
Don't think that they won't pay 5 either. She has a good presentation, so.
Perfect. Let's see if we've got some other ones. I don't want to keep everyone too long. Let's see. Do you want to know about interviewing other agents? Let me see what other ones I got, just to see. I wanted to do this one actually. Because this is going to be a more common one, and I still will give you guys the script books for it. But we want to wait for the market to come back before we try and sell it again. Can you get around the fact that they don't want to sell? No. So this could be just saying them they don't want to sell. But a good objection for you guys to talk about today is, well, in today's economy, the market's going to do one of two things. It's either remain the same or continue to go down. So you see, waiting just doesn't help, does it? So if you got some people waiting to list their house, I don't know, Claire will like this one, but
That was for the buyer.
here, Claire's gonna like this. Anyone know Floyd Wickman?
My favorite.
This is Claire's favorite. This one's the objection handle for interest rates. Let's see if I wonder if it'll play out loud, will it? I'll put the speaker on for this. No. I'm trying to think of the workaround for this one. May have to be speakers, right?
I can try.
Try it. No.
It's gonna bounce off and turn, so.
Oh, yeah. Bear with me, everybody. We're gonna do. Let me try from my phone. Sorry, this is a good one. Too bad. Is it gonna bounce on the sounds?
You mute your microphone and I can turn this on. And okay.
Okay.
Play on your phone. Or- Oh, see his face.
Yeah, his face won't pop up.
We want to wait, it's number 27. Says we want to wait, interest rate impact.
You found it?
27.
Seller.
Number 2. Seller, we want to think it over. Response number 1. I understand, Mrs. Seller. This is a big decision, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, no, wait, it's not that one.
Tell me, what?
I'm gonna drive.
It's the one we want to wait. Sure.
Yeah.
Who else doing the buffet tomorrow?
Okay, ready for this, everybody? Sorry, internet world.
Number 27, seller. We want to wait. We're not ready yet. It's too soon. In this case, we're going to use the interest rate impact. Okay, Mrs. Seller, but I'm not sure we're looking at all the factors here. Can I tell you what I mean?
Sure.
Thank you. No doubt you've heard that the interest rates could quite possibly go up in the near future, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're conscious of that. And as you know, interest rates directly affect the number of buyers in the marketplace. I mean, there's no ignoring that fact. As the rates go up, the number of buyers that qualify for your home is going to decrease. Does that make sense?
I suppose.
Perfect. So in order to get you the most money possible, we need to be able to expose your home to the most buyers possible. Higher interest rates mean less buyers. Let's get it on the market right now before the rates work against us. Do you want to see me today or tomorrow at 4 p.m.?
Well, today would be okay.
Today? Great. So let's do it at 4 p.m. today. Now, before I come out, there's a couple of extra questions I should ask you. Have you got an extra minute?
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. At this point, you proceed again with the pre-qualifying the seller script.
Does that work? So the higher the interest rate goes, the lower the buyer pool goes. And we want to get it to as many buyers before the next interest rate comes. So that's for a seller. That was the one I had. I was trying to go with Floyd Wickman for dad here. So that's a pretty easy objection right now, I think, for dealing with sellers in today's market. For buyers, I don't have one for that. We'll go over that one later. The other one is you guys may deal with, or do you want to go more onto that, or is that okay? Okay, last one I have is you're dealing with sellers right now and they're getting offers. This isn't necessarily objection handling for the client, but the offer is too low. We're going to wait for a more reasonable offer. Is anyone experiencing that right now in this market with a listing? Or have? No? Okay. Well, 99% of the time, your first offer is your best chance. Are you willing to roll the dice for 1%? Probably not. That's like a small one. I think the other one to flip onto your sellers is, we are lucky to have an offer in today's economy. We could wait and maybe there will be another offer, but it may take 4 months. Do you want to wait? So that's the last one I have for your sellers there. I think that was it. Anything else anyone else wants to talk about? It's a lot of objections. I'm going to send you guys the script book. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So Mike Ferry's got this one. It's called 40 Real Estate Objections Handled. He has a whole whack of scripts that you guys can go through, especially if you're going on a listing presentation or anything like that. You may want to go through these. I'm not a script trainer, guys, so I apologize, but I have been to Mike Ferry's, what was it called? Prospecting workshop. It's very intense. Paige and I went like our first week in the business. So it's a real shocker if you ever get to go to Mike Ferry. They make you stand up and start chanting about how the phone makes you money and stuff. And that was Paige and I's introduction to real estate. Really freaks you out. But what he did teach us, which was really nice. And I know Irene was trying to teach us it as well, but we went through this booklet of objections and scripts, and we would underline things that needed like an undertone. And like, as a woman, you've got like this high pitched voice and it tends to go like really girly once in a while, but they teach you how to like downplay a lot of words and which words to extend. He's got these little period, like little ... which means a pause. So if you guys really do want to get into script training and it's something you guys have been wanting to learn, I would highly recommend going to the Mike Ferry. He's got virtual scripting classes. I think they're $150. So if it's something that you guys want to work on a little bit more, I would recommend like doing the virtual classes with someone where they actually do teach you about how to script yourselves, especially as a new agent. Otherwise, I would go through these booklets. I would say get a role-playing partner, but we all know how role-playing partners go. You start off hot. Claire was talking about this on Monday, how if you've got, sometimes your partner decides they don't want to do it anymore. So maybe do it with yourself, in front of a mirror, in your car, wherever you're comfortable. But I would get used to objection handling, especially in this market. It's going to really be what makes you stand out a lot from those agents. We're going to see a lot of people dropping out. The skills aren't going to be up like they used to be. So these are things that I would focus on. Anything else from you, Claire? Okay. Any questions from our virtual world? Let's see. It's a lot to handle, all these conversations. Okay. That's all we've got for today. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. We're going to do business planning. So we're going to do 2023 business planning. You can see Chad, he always loves business planning. We've got a whole worksheet ready for you guys to go. So if you guys want to start planning for next year, we've talked all about different prospecting things, your database, all like the different plans to do every single month for your touch points for your database. So next week, we're going to do more of a hands-on workshop. Probably won't be training too much because there's not a whole lot. It's going to be more of a self-reflecting kind of thing. So we'll sit down, we'll get our business planning books, and then hopefully all of us can kind of walk around and help you guys come up with some business plans for 2023. And if you're at Brian Buffini tomorrow, we'll see you there. Chat to you soon.